just recently we drove past it. My daughter said, "Hey, it's Statue World." And she's 10 now. And I went, "Yeah." And she goes, "Where everyone's dead."
Bye, Statue World.
G'day, you cheeky dogs. To celebrate the Bluey episode Show and Tell finally airing in the UK on CBeebies this week, I have made a compilation video of all of the incredible Easter eggs and behind-the-scene details from this episode.
And we all learned that when I tell you to do something, I'm trying to help you.
I didn't learn that. Me neither.
Really? That's disappointing.
Oh my god, there were so many Australian references in this episode. I'm going to be going through all our traditional Easter eggs, like our long dogs, tennis balls, pineapples, as well as the insane amount of Brisbane locations that they showcased in this, the cameos, the Simpsons references, and of course the more meta references about Bluey's family and the previous episode Tina. So if you love Bluey as much as I do, don't forget to hit that like button down below, as well as that subscribe button and that bell for notifications so you know whenever I release any other Bluey content or do any live streams.
Look, your surfboard.
Whoa, it worked!
I told you.
I'm sorry, Satnav.
That is okay.
So let's start off with the traditional Easter eggs first then. We had 3 tennis balls in total. We had one that was in the dining room down in the bottom left corner, and then we also had 2 in Bingo's kindergarten. We also then had 2 long dogs in this episode as well. One was a little bit more visible than the other. The first one was on the electrical box as we saw Bandit going past, and I'm going to talk more about this electrical box because it exists in real life as well as a long dog on the top surfboard at the surfer's house. But we also have the pineapple as well in this episode. It is on the store sign that we see as Bandit drives past.
Are we almost at your surfboard?
Not yet. Just be patient.
Be patient. 9.
Oh man, I'm done with this game.
So, speaking of Bandit driving, let's talk about those locations. So, as Bandit is driving aimlessly around Toowong, the first main building that we can recognize, we've already seen before actually in Daddy Drop Off, and that is like the green building that they drive past. This is actually the Cheesecake Shop and Cartridge World, which is on Waterworks Road. We also get to see the little bus stop lady there, and the bus stop also looks the exact same as well. We then also see them driving past Hammer Barn, of course, referencing the episode Hammer Barn, but in real life, that is also called Bunnings. We then also see them going to Toowong Cemetery, and again, we know it's definitely Toowong Cemetery. We can tell from the gates at the front, as well as a lot of the dog statues in the background match the ones that you can see sort of when you first go into Toowong Cemetery as well. Another classic Toowong building is the Hutchinson building. We see Bandit driving around the corner of that, and it's such a cool little detail. So this building actually underneath has a car wash called Hoppy's, and it's a frog, but instead in the Blueyverse they decided to make it a green chameleon instead.
Turn left here.
Well, I just... Okay.
And then, of course, we have the electrical box and Stafford State School. So, in real life, I actually went to this last year and did a couple of videos filmed there, but the Ludo Studio animators actually went to Stafford School and they painted all around this electrical box with different scenes from Bluey. And there was even a long dog on there as well. But what's really cool is we see Bandit driving past Stafford State School, which again is in a totally different location to where they are, so no wonder they got lost.
If you ignore Satnav, you're going to get lost.
Well, we'll see.
But of course, on top of this electrical box is where we can see the long dog, and we have the front picture of Bluey and Bingo hugging, as well as the side picture of their house, which of course brings up the idea of like the metaverse. Like, I made a theory ages ago about Bluey being basically like a Kardashian, that their family is actually in a reality TV show, and that's what the show is. And it's kind of like proving me right. This is ridiculous how accurate it's starting to get in all these like inverse sort of meta jokes.
Too much telling. Kids switch off if you talk too long.
Ah, well, you need to clean your ears out.
I do want to point out though some of just like the really cool little extra details that they put into these scenes. So you can also see like the veterinary clinic with the paw print on it, as well as a little pizza store as well. And then some of like the cameos is we see the dog and her son from Dance Mode, which also looks a lot like Rich J from the 1980s flashback scene in Fairy Tale.
In 50 meters, turn right.
Now turn right like she says.
This better work.
Now, speaking of cameos, let's talk about the real life cameos in this. The first one being Mick Fanning, who is a famous Australian surfer. He, of course, was voicing our surfer dog who was selling the surfboard to Bandit. And I love that we see, like, just how much Bandit loves surfing. Like, we already know he has a surfboard because we saw that in Bob Bilby, and we see him, like, reading surfing magazines before, too. So I love that they kind of keep referencing that he does love surfing. Also, as well, the design on the surfer dog looks a lot like Mick Fanning in real life, which is really cool, even down to the detail of his iconic black watch that he wears all the time, even when surfing.
Whoa, what do you got there?
It's a crab claw.
Oh yeah, look, it's from a blue coral crab.
Ooh.
The other voice actor is Shauna Corrigan, who is the Sat-Nav voice actor.
turn left.
Now, she was also actually the voice actor for the Sat-Nav in the episode Explorers as well, but she doesn't seem to be a famous actress or anything like that, so I'm assuming that she's probably just a friend of Joe Brum or someone at Ludo Studios. Now, let's talk about the Simpsons reference / the blah 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 reference.
Blah, 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 blah. Solitary confinement.
Blah, 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 blah.
So this was just such a funny joke, and it's just so true that like kids will switch off if you talk too much to them, and I love just like that message within this episode. And of course, both Chili and Bandit saying blah blah blah. Chili's lines made like a little bit more sense. She was talking about like the crab.
Blah, 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 blah.
Skeleton. You see, blah, 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 skeleton, blah, 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 mitochondria.
We have no idea why Bandit ended up in like solitude at the end of his talk.
I called blah, 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 cleaning toilets, blah, 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 blah. Solitary confinement.
Now, we've gone through the Aussie Brisbane locations in this, so let's go through some of the other Australian references. We have a bunch of like Aussie words. We have g'day, we have good nick, which of course in Australian means good condition, as well as sat-nav, which of course is GPS, and the tomato sauce, aka the ketchup. This was such like, again, a really funny little detail because this is again is exactly what tomato sauce bottles look like in Australia, even down to like the red and blue lids for detailing between the regular one and the low sugar, low sodium one.
I want to try.
Kids eat the healthy one. End of.
This is beautiful. Why do you get the good one and we get the disgusting one?
We also have a bunch of Australian animals and some other animal references as well. We see the kookaburra as well as the cockatoo in this episode. We also find out that the crab claw that Bingo has, which is of course from Stickbird, our last episode, is a blue coral crab, which is a very common crab in Australia, but also one of the largest ones as well. So I'm surprised they didn't actually make the nipper a lot bigger. We also see a zebra pen in the background, and of course this reminded me of the episode Onesies, where zebras of course used to be Bluey's favorite animal. We also have some just really cute little funny moments with the animation in this as well. Everything from Buddy picking his nose in Bingo's kindy class to Chili sticking her tongue out at Bandit, or even just the girls' reactions when they're trying the tomato sauce for the first time at the table. Just these extra details that they've been adding in a lot more for this season just totally make the episode so much more richer and fuller and so funny too.
Oh, and it does this.
Now, of course, we do have that kind of meta fourth wall break where they're talking about the episode Tina, and Bandit is really disappointed that the kids didn't learn their lesson in that.
Didn't we cover this already?
No.
Yeah, we did. Remember? Your invisible friend Tina beat me up. And we all learned that when I tell you to do something, I'm trying to help you.
I didn't learn that. Me neither.
Really? That's disappointing.
And I definitely want to do a bit more of an in-depth breakdown about this idea of show versus tell, because it's a big concept when you're also filmmaking as well. And I feel like that's the line they were trying to go with this, kind of similar to what they did with Curry Quest, with how that's like a filmmaking like procedure of how you would write a script. This is a very big thing in the film industry of you should always show something, don't tell people about it. Because it's boring when you tell people about it. They'll switch off because they don't have enough attention. Exactly like what they were saying in this episode.
Pro tip, keep it simple. Kids switch off if you talk too long.
But overall for me, I loved this episode. I thought it was so much fun, and I loved just how many Australian references and especially Brisbane references were in it. I used to live in Brisbane, and so for me, 5 out of 5. I really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was a lot of fun. I did think that they were maybe going to go somewhere a little bit darker with the cemetery, but I'm kind of glad that they didn't. I liked the lesson that they were trying to tell us in this one, and I just thought it was so fun.
You're always saying do this and do that. That's true. You do.
So, cheeky dogs, let me know in that comment section down below, how many long dogs would you give this episode out of 5, as well as what were your favorite moments from this episode too? And do you know what any of these things mean?
We told you! Statue World!
So yes, it is confirmed that there is no religion whatsoever in Bluey, and that was confirmed from the Behind Bluey podcast with Joe Brum's interview with Costa Kassab, the lead art director. So of course, if you were watching the episode, you would have seen when they rolled up to the cemetery, and if you looked in the background, there was no religious icons, there was no crosses, there was no angels, no like actual prayer positions of any type whatsoever, and that was on purpose.
We need a cemetery, but sticking with the ABC's rules, we couldn't show any religious iconography or angels, a bit like Veranda Santa.
So yes, confirmation that we're never going to see any sort of like religion in Bluey whatsoever. But I did think that this was a really interesting thing and would probably explain why other episodes we haven't seen anything like this, like Christmas or Easter, for example.
How am I going to farm a surfboard?
You just have to do what Satnav says.
The second interesting thing is about Statue World, its actual self. And again, we learned some information about this from the Behind Bluey podcast about this episode. So we did get confirmation that this was based on Toowong Cemetery and that this whole idea of like the sat-nav game as well was from Joe Brum.
There was this game which always used to crush it with the kids, which was me ignoring sat-nav when we'd drive. I'd be sort of like, I'm sick of Siri telling me what to do. I'm going left, and it would just kill it in the car.
And you can already tell from like the comparison photos of like the gate of the cemetery and like the hills and everything that this was definitely Toowong Cemetery in Brisbane.
And the other thing I love about this app is Bingo saying Statue World when they get to the Toowong Cemetery.
Statue World!
But something really fun though is that the whole idea of it being called Statue World is based on what Joe Brum's daughter actually calls cemeteries. But she does have a very, very funny line that didn't quite make it into the show.
We drove past it. My daughter said, hey, it's Statue World. And she's 10 now. And I went, yeah. And she goes, where everyone's dead.
The third really interesting thing though, I think, is the blah 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 scenes.
You see, blah 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 skeleton, blah 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 mitochondria. Make sense?
No.
So again, Joe Brum confirmed this on the Behind Bluey podcast that this was inspired by The Simpsons. I know a lot of people thought that it was maybe inspired by like Charlie Brown and Peanuts, but Joe said that this was specifically about The Simpsons and he remembered like Santa's Little Helper as that like reference point for it.
So there's a couple of bits in it where Bandit and Chili both start monologuing, and when we cut to the POV of the kids, it's just blah, 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 blah. I'm trying to remember where that came from. I'm assuming it was The Simpsons. I think Santa's Little Helper episode being spoken to the humans with The Simpsons.
Go home! Blah, 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 blah.
But what was your favorite thing about the episode show and tell? Let me know in that comment section down below. And while you're down there, don't forget to hit that like button as well as that subscribe button and that bell for notifications so you know whenever I release any other Bluey videos. Until then though, I have picked you cheeky dogs out a few other videos that maybe you would like to watch, and I will see you all in another video. Mwah! Bye!